Function, pumping and dumping, manipulate the market, flooded from the dark net, flooded from the deep web, keep it a secret. Every exchange got the nerdy brains trading on the frequent.
Okay. Perfect. Yay. I was afraid I would be chipmunking or something. Just give us a second. Just want to make sure it's going through over here. Okay, perfect. And let me turn off desktop audio so we don't reverb. And there we go. Ha! Hello, everybody. Wow, this up. Oh, I just realized I have a fan on because it's really freaking hot. Not in here per se, it's just been hot in general all day. Did I just do the... Oh, Lord. Okay, well, I guess this fan's going to be sitting over here all day. I just did the crossing cord things like the way a grandfather would keep the lens cap on while recording his kids. But we're live now. You would think this would be the easiest episode to do, but apparently my luck just keeps showing how it's not lucky. So after lots of struggle, we're finally here airing. So let's just get into the thick of it, not do any like weird pompous stuff. So hi everyone out there on the interwebs. People refer to me as Sidepocket. That's my handle on the internet. I've had it for years now. I'm one of the two co-founders of DCG 201, formerly known as DEF CON 201 and DC 201. We are one of the many DEF CON groups that exist across the United States and around the world, and the 201 stands for our area code, which is we're located in New Jersey, currently in Jersey City, New Jersey, although we're looking at different options. We might go to a local thing in a neighboring spot in Jersey City, like either Newark or, God forbid, Hoboken or something, but we're still working on that. We normally meet once a month, and it used to be the third Friday of every month, but now, again, our options are expanding. I still need a bit more time in order to get the final venue, so look for that announcement soon, because I definitely want to meet up at least a month before DEF CON in order to prepare for DEF CON 31, which will be coming this August. And because of that, in July, we're going to have a lot of cool stuff to announce. And if you want to keep up on those announcements, here is our Medium blog, because our website is still a current clusterfuss that we keep struggling with and fighting against. And we are also on every form of social media known to man. Let's try that again. There we go. That was weird. Go away. There we go. What was I getting to here? Okay, yeah, we're on every social media known to man. So we're also on for example, at DCG 201NJ on the Terrible Bird site that managed to, well, I think they don't have any kneecaps left for them to hit, and they've shot their feet to oblivion. So I don't know what other body parts the muskrat is sacrificing, but we're still on there, still playing the hilarious bad kazoo music as the Titanic, that's not the probe that went to look at the Titanic, sinks. I know, too soon, but whatever. We're also on Instagram on DEF CON 201, on GitHub, on let's see what else. Co-host, Tribal, Minds.com. We're on a bunch of different sites, and so if you go to the link tree that I just posted in the chat, that will show all the different links, including all the places you can watch and stream from. And even though we don't use it as frequently as we should, as we continue on to figure out which IRC server we're going to be moving into publicly, as well as what private chat we're going to be using for future meetings, we do have a Discord. And I just posted that link in chat, because Discord already has its own hell, but, why not? So yeah, I guess that's the intro. I'm still we had a period where for a month or two I hadn't been streaming, so it's like me doing this is trying to get on a bike again, where I'm remembering the whole spiel and everything that we do. But to continue on, in addition to normally live streaming our in-person meetings, we usually have a bunch of different types of shows, and I have two recurring shows that's been going on for a while. One is Master of Unlocking, which is going to be more fruitful in July. That's the one where we look at physical security and locks. And then I have this show, which is called Crypto Barons, where we look at blockchain and cryptocurrency technologies as technologies. To give a recap, just because it's been a while since we've done Crypto Barons, this show came out of my frustration and a lot of my hacker colleagues at DCG 201's frustration of we would hear a interesting thing going on in the blockchain world, some sort of new piece of tech, a new type of encryption, just something, and then we would go type it into DuckDuckGo, type it into YouTube or whatever, to try to look it up, and what we would get is endless pages and endless videos and endless podcasts of people doing hype marketing stuff and talking about buying the dip and going to the moon and the bear market and a bunch of shit that we were not interested in because we just wanted to know the piece of technology. And so because that type of show doesn't really exist, especially in the way that we do it, that's what this show's all about. So, we look at certain things such as what we're going to be covering today, and we're going to be like, ooh, how is this programmed? Oh, they have a white paper. Cool. They have the math of how their whole system works. Let's do the math on air. Ooh, they have a test net. Let's see if we try to run it. Ooh, they have code. Let's look through it. Let's try to run things. Can we hack it? How does it get hacked? If it did get hacked, why did it get hacked? Things like that. And that's what this whole show is about. And before we continue on, I also like to remind that I'm going to force myself to get into the groove of for this episode, that if you like what you see today, if you've seen our past episodes on our various channels and you think it's groovy, and you want to support us, you want to get alerts to when we live stream when I'm on time, you can follow us completely for free on our main streams, which is YouTube and Twitch. We are also recently just gotten on Odyssey, and we also have a decentralized backup on PeerTube. And if you are super elite and you want to go complete incognito, we have our own instance of Invidious that allows you to connect and watch this through YouTube, but via Tor, so that way you have that layer of protection there. So there's multiple ways you can watch us. You have no excuses in doing so. And if you follow us on Twitch, YouTube, or Odyssey, we do get notifications of when you follow. It says, this person follows, and then we cheer you on and thank you and all sorts of that. So, I'm gonna rehydrate from the awesome tea provided at where we are currently streaming at, which we've been streaming at for a bit, which is Hack Manhattan. I've been going to Hack Manhattan open houses and events for years. Really awesome space. They used to be on 14th Street. Now, is that my phone? Probably my phone. My phone is stupid loud. So yeah, they used to be on 14th Street in New York, and now they're on 37th Street in New York. Really cool space. If you ever come, they have open houses every Tuesday and Thursday. I believe it's from 7, I believe it's either 6 or 7, I think it's 7 p.m. to 10 p.m., but we're going to go look at that in a moment. But yeah, go check them out. It's not even because I'm here, it's because literally the space is awesome, and the new space is an actual, there's space, you can move and stuff. It's pretty nifty. So just want to thank Hack Manhattan for not only the space, but also for this awesome tea. So, what are we going to be looking at in today's episode? Well, I'm going to have you look at what I'm wearing and just guess. Also, it's technically the spoilers are in the title, but, it's a rhetorical question I have to ask. So yeah, this past week on Wednesday and Thursday, I mean, there was AppSecCon, which unfortunately I missed huge chunks of, and I have to catch up on that. But that's going to be a whole other thing one day. During the same time, there was another convention that was called Polkadot Decoded. Now, if you guys remember from our weirdly live streamed episode from last year, I was physically at Polkadot Decoded because they had their whole idea of like decentralized, so they actually did it in multiple cities. They did it Wikipedia style. They did it in multiple different cities around the globe, all around the same time period, and then had those interconnect with each other. It was really cool, really awesome, but I can also imagine that in terms of the logistics and the cost, it was really expensive to do. So this year for Polkadot Decoded in the year 2023, they decided to host the entire convention in goddamn Copenhagen for some reason. Guess they also wanted to like highlight climate change, which was actually a panel I believe on there this year. But they held it in Copenhagen, and for all of us poor schmucks like myself who couldn't make it out there, not only did this entire convention exist online like circa pandemic style, but they also had viewing parties that third-party groups that they're associated did in all of their own local areas. So there was a ton of them. I went to the one, if I can turn around on the camera, try not to decapitate myself with the cord. I went to the one in New York City, obviously, because unfortunately they did not have one in New Jersey. And yeah, I was briefly there because, okay, so New Jersey usually has like really awful transit, but I don't know what's like particularly going on the past 2 months, but you probably have noticed with how late the streamings are, even more than normal, it's been really, really awful. So my apologies for that, but yeah, I ended up getting there late. I met some really cool people. We're going to upload some pictures on our Instagram and Twitter and Mastodon. Oh yeah, by the way, we're on Mastodon at the Huxnet.social account. And we're going to post those images up there that I took there. Some of those you may have already seen on Instagram for us advertising for this, but we're going to put the pictures up there. It's really cool. Apparently, they're going to have quarterly meetings. Well, they said they normally have them every quarter, but they're trying to meet more frequently. I think their goal is to meet like once every other month. And I do know that there's something related that the space they had it there is going to do in July. That's not Polkadot, but it's definitely blockchain related. So I'm going to go take a look at that hopefully next month. But that's neither here or there. We're going to look at Polkadot Decoded, what it was this year, and in particular, one of my favorite things, like dead serious about Polkadot, is that, you know, obviously it has its own pie in the sky bullshit, crypto schemes and stuff like that. But not only does it feel like that they're kept to a minimum, but Polkadot has some of the most engineering people I have ever seen in a blockchain thing that has been deployed and is like used in an enterprise sense and not just some sort of like hobby group like when we covered Mimblewimble. They like when I went to Polkadot last year, not only were they the only convention I've ever seen in blockchain so far that had like a dedicated tech section, which they had panels and workshops that were just all pure coding. They had the engineers there. It was very grounded, very realistic. Even the main stage stuff, they had coding examples and like live hardware and software demonstrations and stuff. Like in the keynotes that are supposed to be for business, they had engineering and code in it. It was really cool. But also, like, I tend to find that the Polkadot people are very, like, they want results and they want tangible results. Like, they are, from what I've experienced, incredibly realistic of not only their own products and their own code and platforms, but they also seem to be very realistic in the field that they're in. Like, for example, I remember when NFTs were getting popular, that they did, and they were going to probably see some examples here. There were parachains, aka cross-chain spin-offs. We covered Polkadot 2 years ago. You can go and check out the episode after the stream. I should actually probably have done a redirect to it on YouTube. I'll fix that later. But not only like, I mean, it's pretty nuts when I think about it. They did do stuff with NFTs. They put infrastructure there, but Polkadot was the only community I ever saw that like had criticisms about NFTs, and they had like legitimate criticisms that other blockchain groups and stuff and other blockchains made fun of them for, and then all of that sort of stuff came true, such as the bad use of assets, the rampant scams, the lack of actual value. Things like that were brought up in the Polkadot community before they became like mainstream like knowledge of what the fuck is NFT, ha ha ha, this is stupid, and starving artists are even more starving because of it. This was stuff that Polkadot, the people there, were worried about before it really came to light and became popular. So I give them huge props for that. So that's why we're checking them out. And most of the stuff we're going to see is in the tech section, although there might be one or two things in the impact section that we're going to see later. So as you can see on the screen, this is our blog, our Medium blog that I posted in chat. And then I will post their link in here. Now this is where I'm going to, because this dark mode is so stupid, so I'm probably going to be clicking back and forth on this. But yeah, this is their website at hackmanhattan.com. Again, if you want to check out the space and you're in the New York area or you're in New York, they have open houses, as it says, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. I like that not only does it bounce across the screen, I don't know if it's because of the coding or if it's done on purpose. I should ask one day. I love that instead of just smoothly bouncing across it, like, you can tell it's like going up and left at the same time. Like, and it's so, like, it reminds me of like the early like JavaScript stuff in Web 1.0. And so I just find that endlessly amusing that they, instead of just smoothly having this thing bounce around like a screensaver, it's done in that, like, we did this in pure JavaScript and CSS type code that you would see back in like 1997 or 1998. Yeah, that's hilarious. If you saw me poke at one of the people at the space was like, yeah, no, that's what they did. It's the same exact thing, and then I'll stop rambling of how, like, I'm probably going to bring this up next year for our anniversary. It'll be 7 years, holy shit, for DCG 201, that we actually do have, like, it's not like official, but there is like a visual guide for all of our stuff, and like our visual guide is like, it's compatible with like modern standards and practices in terms of, it's like high like resolutions you would never get in this time period and stuff. But our visual style was like, oh, where like DCG 201 is like a hacker group in like 1996, and like their website should look like a like professional shitty GeoCities page. And we have an IRC, and we're using ASCII art and like stencil drawing sort of flyers that we put up, and like that's our visual style. So I always kind of like appreciate that, back when websites played annoying midis in the background, you would oh god, this takes me back when they had the web rings at the bottom, and then at the bottom you'd have little things like, this was proudly made in Notepad and crap like that. So that's neither here or there. Again, if you're in the New York area, Tuesdays and Thursdays they have an open house, 7 p.m. goes on to question marks. Check it out. And hey, if you show up on a Tuesday or Thursday, I think it's probably going to be more like Thursday, you not only might see me, but you might learn a thing or two from the other show that I normally do. But again, that's neither here or there. Let's look at our main event. So yes, this is Polkadot Decoded. It went from June 28th to June 29th. Join the world's most largest Web3 multi-chain ecosystem. Super fancy website here. I'm not going to play the YouTube because it might kill the stream. So actually, if it's going to kill this stream, let me check. Yeah, we're doing really good. Yeah, I'm happy. Lots of sponsors this time. Like, I remember when I went last year, I think there was like 3 or 5 sponsors. This year, it just exploded. It's just everywhere. And I will say, not only was this professionally done, but there's sort of it really shows you how much like a techies they are. So you could obviously watch entirely through your desktop browser, or they actually had an app. I don't know if they had one for iOS, but they definitely had their own app for Android, and it literally had everything. I wish I could emulate it up here. I'm not going to show my actual phone for security reasons, but like, it did like literally everything you would think Twitch would do. So you could scroll through, very easy, snappy. You could load up a live stream or a pre-recorded video like we're going to do in a moment. And what's really neat is if you exited out of the Polkadot app, it would then minimize the video and keep the video out on your screen no matter what other application you're in. So you could watch the stream while doing other nefarious things such as running code or looking at porn or whatever the hell you do, or both. A lot of hackers do both. And what was really cool was the first day, there was like a couple of bugs, and then the second day there was a push update to the Android app where not only did they fix those bugs, but they came up with features that they were like, why didn't we put this in on release? And it was updated right there, and they announced it also like on the stream as they were updating it. So like that kind of shows you the type of people that we're gonna sort of see here. Lots of media partners. Here's some of the recap pictures that they took at the event. So all of this side scrolly thing is new. And yeah, we're going to take a look at a bunch of different stuff. And again, this is like one of the few cons. I think it's literally like Polkadot and Solana are the only two blockchains and blockchain organizations and DAOs that like really, I mean, you can even see here they had a hackathon there that's still going on, by the way. Or wait a minute, it was going on. They just wrapped up today. It was in person in Copenhagen, run by the Encode Club. But you know, it really shows just how techy this group is, as we saw when we covered Polkadot initially. So we're going to kind of occasionally between videos, I'll add supplementary material. We're going to be watching some talks and reacting to them. The good thing is many of these talks are only about like between like 15 to 20 minutes long, so they don't go that long, although they're really dense because I did get to see a couple of them beforehand. So we're going to watch like 3, maybe 5 of them, depends. And then I'm going to add some bits at the little cool 2 other bits of news, one related to one of Polkadot's sister groups at the end. And then if you're on Twitch, unfortunately with YouTube, I don't have anything to forward to this episode, although I'm going to actually probably go back and forward it to our original Polkadot episode where we did a deep dive about the chain, the power chains, the technology itself, and the different organizations that are under their umbrella. But if you're on Twitch, we always rate another stream on Twitch. So if you're on Twitch, hang on, you'll get there. And by the way, when we bring up code, and we always usually bring it up under GitHub, nothing against GitLab, it's just most people are on GitHub, so that's what we usually bring up. If you're on Twitch, we have a widget down below that allows you to look at, and we've pinned all the stuff that we're looking at on the episode, as we do every episode. So when you follow the code along with us, you can also open that GitHub in your browser without leaving the stream and seeing everything there. So let's go watch some techie talks. So let's see, we're going to bring this up here. Get rid of the web browser. All right, so I'm going to go into interact mode. This is sort of like my schedule here, so let's see. So I'm trying to figure out exactly the first one, because the first one, because I was really curious about, and this is why I think I'm going to skip this one. We might play this at the end. So one of the talks that caught my eye, and it's literally for both the right and wrong reasons, is, and I'm just going to read the entire title and break down what it is. It's called The Gateway to the Social Web, MeWe's Journey to Bring Web3 to Millions Over Frequency. And a common talk theme that you're going to see in this is they're going to be talking about not only decentralization, but particularly self-ownership, decentralization, and anti-censorship in social media. So Polkadot has been right there criticizing. They were already criticizing Twitch and actively like promoting Mastodon and the stuff that they're on their own chains, but they are especially critical of Elon Musk's handling of Twitter. Like, I think they were the only crypto people who were like, "Oh fuck, this is not going to go well," and then it didn't, because everyone else, particularly in crypto and blockchain, kissed Elon Musk's ass, which is, by the way, completely against what Satoshi wanted. So just putting that out there. That's a deep dive we'll go into one day in a future episode. There's going to be an inevitable episode, by the way, where I finally cover Bitcoin and all its crazy forks, and I'll go through the history of it. But that's probably going to happen in like September, so we'll see. But so that's cool, and they do talk about this in the talk. The reason why I'm probably going to skip it is because it's about MeWe, and it has Jeffrey Endell from MeWe. So if you don't know what MeWe is, I know it sounds like some weird uwu term, and you're kind of right. It's basically a Facebook alternative. It's like Friendica. It's its own, like, it's heavily modeled off of Facebook, but it's its own social media thing. And unfortunately, then here's one of those case scenarios where, to be honest, it didn't start this way technically. Not the CEOs, the people who started it maybe, but the engineers, it didn't start off this way. But unfortunately, like most alternative social media stuff, it ended up becoming a giant hive that was taken over by right-wing stuff. And I don't mean like, trickle down there. I'm talking about like stuff that makes Jan 6 look like, trying to think, like a Splatoon match, like just like that sort of like insane crap. Like this, we've seen this happen with, some of them are built in like that, like Rumble and Gab, which we've criticized Gab with its shitty coding and practices over and over again. But like, for example, DLive didn't start off that way, turned into that. Mines is an interesting case because we're still on Mines. You can totally tell that honestly, that the people on there still, like, as annoying as they are, they really do take a neutral stance on everything. It's just more people on there like that. But we've like literally met like actual like Antifa and like anarchists on that platform, like unironically. So it is like, it's kind of like mixed enough where it's like, okay, this is like actual like libertarian, like what you see in like countries outside the United States. So no matter how annoying some of these people are, at least that gets, that's the case. And you see the same thing with Kick, where Kick's also, by the way, kind of interesting because it's kind of funny because like Kick started off basically as like hyper capitalism. So of course now it's falling to extreme right wingism. Of course it is. But so that's why I'm not running it, because not only is MeWe a giant hive for right wing stuff, but Jeffrey Idle himself, unlike Mind's CEO, you can definitely tell that he's like a closeted manga person, or at least that's how he comes off. So I just want to save myself the headache and not play that one. So we're probably going to go to something else here. Let's see, we have enabling Web3 social networking through open protocols, which is about open source. Polkadot's really big on open source. And I think what we're going to do is let's immediately try to jump on the privacy stuff. So instead of the two security talks. So I think so the minimum of this episode, we're going to watch the two talks that were based directly on privacy and security, and then we might see one or two cool coding, like fluff pieces things. So let me see. So we're going to do agenda. We're going to go to the tech stage. Let's see here. Building fast. So the first talk we're going to look at, and I've only seen pieces of this, but it looked really good, is called Data Privacy at Login. And apparently this is a person who's not only arguing for everything is privacy-oriented foundation from the start on all these different parachains, but from what I understand, he's also going to show, like, code-wise through Polkadot with its solidity and stuff, how you actually set that all up. So, and again, most of these talks are really short. So let's see data at login privacy. Let's see if this properly loads. Oh, all right, let's try this again. The worst comes to worst, I'll do it in browser mode, and we might see the stream have a heart attack, but we'll find out. And by the way, if the stream fluctuates or whatever, now I will say there is one area of this space that doesn't have the best Wi-Fi signal, just because that's how the building's designed. But during particularly this stream, if this stream gets dumb or weird, it has nothing to do with the Wi-Fi here at Hack Manhattan. It's literally, as you've seen with past episodes, of this shitty machine. So basically, the internet bandwidth.
Which Wi-Fi are you on?
I'm on the one that you showed me. Yeah.
Okay. It should be.
Yeah. No.
That. It should be better.
Yeah. No, because trust me, I have enough experience. I'm talking to another Hack Manhattan person. It's not you guys, because I've had this happen before, where it's like certain, like for example, we have this thing where I'm trying to remember what Diana Initiative uses for their live stream. I think it's Hopped In. So we have like a rule that on our current streaming machine, we will never live stream anything from Hopped In, because they do their video codec, and it's worse than Apple's. So like as soon as you run it, like you could literally have like an RX 380 like from like NVIDIA or whatever, and it's a 15 frame second slideshow, because like it's taking like, it would be like a cute video of like someone soldering, and for some reason it's running it at like 64K, like, and so that just kills everything. So with this machine, it's literally the bandwidth of this shitty machine. So that's why I'm saying that in the beginning. So like if we're having technical difficulties, it's literally because of this shitty machine. Where was I here? So privacy, privacy, login. Let's try this again. Okay, now it's loading. Here we go.
Thank you for the demonstration.
All right.
We're going to talk about now about data privacy. Our next speaker will describe how confidential data are protected within the Logion network thanks to a chain-agnostic restricted delivery. So, as we prepare, okay. So, anyone better than Gerard Dedier, from CTO from Logion Network, to talk about this. So please welcome him to the stage.
There's normally a little icon that makes this thing bigger. Oh, here it is. I'm dumb. There we go. All right, let's react to this.
All right. Hi, everybody. So, subject was announced. I'm Gerard, CTO of Logion, and let's go. So first, what is Logion? Well, actually, Logion is the legal tech for tokenized economy. So what we do is enable the creation of legally binding tokens. And we do so by providing a framework for compliant tokenization. And this allows us basically to create a trust-minimized market for real-world assets. And we also offer a tool set for secure digital ownership. Our vision is to enable people to protect their rights and the value they create and exchange on the Web3. So,
by the way, I just want to quickly pause and say that I forgot to mention this at the beginning. If you're in chat, because sometimes I have to pay attention to the chat, I love a lively chat. So if you have any questions about why the hell we started at 8 instead of 7, who am I, where am I, why are we listening to this guy rambling about privacy with blockchain, this stupid hat, please let me know in chat. But if you're like me and you just like to creepingly eat popcorn and watch things, as I always say, keep lurking and keep learning. Oh, and by the way, if you also want notifications of when we properly go live and want to keep up and follow us on our things, particularly on Twitch, YouTube, and Odyssey, you can follow us completely for free on there, and we get drop-in notifications during our live streams, and if we see you follow us while we're live, we cheer you on. So otherwise, let's continue.
did we create Logion? Basically, I don't know if you know, but the world is about to get tokenized. And so we believe that we must bind digital assets to people, companies, rights, laws, and obligations. Otherwise, no mass adoption, because no rights and no regulatory approval.
So right off the bat, he brings up a fantastic point. It's kind of funny because I'm actually debating about doing a panel in our own group about their legit, because people don't even realize this exists, that there's a legit difference between Web3, that the crypto bros refer to it as, and I hate that term, and Web 3.0, which is what the actual W3 consortium has been working towards for the past couple of decades now. And one of the reasons why I hate the concept of Web3 is because it would literally turn the term blockchain into its literal meaning, an actual chain, something you chain something to, an enslavement, by tokenizing everything, that no matter the type of decentralization that you have, by turning everything to an asset, you have now made everything even more hyper-capitalistic on the internet than it already is, and basically everyone becomes an object that can be bought, sold, and traded, and that's literally the definition of a cyberpunk dystopia. And so it's really interesting that he does bring up the fact that it's like, okay, and I don't think we're going to a thing where everything's going to be tokenized, by the way. I'm very much against that, and I honestly don't think that's where things are going, in the same way how I don't think that even if VR gets off the proper ground, that we're going to abandon monitors and stuff, in the same way of while they're uncommon, there's still magazines and things like that, and there's just certain tech that we just, hell, I remember when people think that we would move beyond mouse and keyboard, and while we do use touchscreens a lot, here we are on our desktops with mouse and keyboards. So Like, I don't think everything's going to be tokenized, but I do like the fact that he brings up of like, okay, so let's say Web3 fully happens and everything does become tokenized. He's like, our concern should be, how are these smart contracts are being made? What sort of policies are being made? And are those policies being directly reflected in the actual software and coding of the platform that's being used? Because as he says, if it's not in there, not only would this be bad and terrible, but that, as we're finding out with the current legal stuff going on between various governments, including the U.S. government and cryptocurrencies, that, you know, as a citation paper, this is the one thing that's kind of consistent, is that for these decentralized tokens and platforms, there's nothing to regulate. There's no, you know, nothing stops this train. So if this stuff, and I'm glad that someone's actually thinking of this, because I wish people thought of this during the early internet in 1995, which is like, you know, everyone was just thinking like pie in the sky, crazy U.S. libertarian stuff, instead of the horse shit, you know, Elon Musk, Zuckerberg controlled reality that we live in now. So I am glad that while I disagree with this man of that everything's going to be tokenized, I do like that he's already thinking, okay, if this is the future, like, how is this sort of policy stuff getting handled? And instead of just being words on a page that people vaguely follow, is this actually being implemented and reflected in the actual coding and projects that are going on? Because if it's not, we're all in hell, and that's probably going to be the biggest interruption I do with this. So let's let this play out.
So there are three key features that we have at Logion. The first is the proof of flow, which is basically the fact of binding the obligations, rights, and benefits to a token. The restricted delivery, so basically the possibility to give access to files only to the token owners. And finally, what we call the Logion certificate, which is a confidentiality and privacy-preserving way to actually verify data, documents, and so on. So the foundations of our proof of flow is first a blockchain operated by judicial officers. Second, a network of verified issuers, so those are people whose identity is known and we can trust them. And we have two other foundations which are more technical, I would say. First is a private and encrypted distributed storage. And finally, a zero-knowledge proof system of evidence records. How do we actually work? Well, quite easy, actually. Minters and verified issuers come and record data on our platform. Our judicial officers create certificates. Then tokens are minted and linked to the certificate. And finally, if it applies and the asset's life cycle and the asset actually has a life cycle, well, the certificate may evolve to actually reflect that. So I will now dive a little bit deeper into our system. So I will first present our data model, our processes, our architecture, and then show you a quick example of how it applies. Let's go. At the heart of our system, there is the legal officer case. We call it a lock, which is basically a data structure which is combining on-chain and off-chain data. So on-chain data are all public, of course. And off-chain data, they are mostly private. And behind each login certificate, there is one lock. A data model of a legal officer case. A legal officer case has an owner, which is one of the judicial officers which is in charge of it. There is a requester, so basically a Polkadot address. There is a type. Today I will focus on the identity and collection locks. I will explain later. And in each lock, you will have a collection of files, public data, and links, potentially links to other locks. So the life cycle of a lock is as follows. First, you have a requester which actually creates a draft and submits it to the owner, potentially after already enriching it with data and files. So if the lock is accepted by the owner, the requester is able to publish it on chain, and after that, the owner is actually able to acknowledge that publication. And once everything is fine, so all the data, all the files, all the links are there and everything is fine, we are able to close the lock. And that's the moment where the certificates can be considered as fully applicable and yeah, done. In terms of identities, because that's a little bit at the heart of what I'm presenting here. So the judicial officer's identity is known, it's public, something that's known by everybody. However, the requester's identity is something that's, well, kept confidential, all right? So how do we do that? Basically, we create identity locks. So identity locks are there as kind of containers for all the data required to actually identify someone. And, well, those data remain fully private, of course. And the thing is that once an ID lock is closed, you can consider the ID lock certificate as a zero knowledge proof of the fact that the identity of someone which is behind an address is known and has been verified.
So it is interesting that that they're basically using, because many episodes ago, in fact, our first season of the show, we're basically on our third season right now, that we covered different actual security and encryption methods, and we covered Z-snarks, for example, which recently has become like a lot more popular due to implementation, probably because also Ethereum has been implementing it into their base chain systems. And so it's kind of fascinating of like they're really going back to that root of like having cryptocurrency with the crypto actually meaning encryption as opposed to whatever snake oil terms that are being used in modern day, where they're using these sort of like Alice, Bob, I forget the other two, like Jim and Sally encryption methods in order to not only keep certain data private while others are public in a PGP sense, but also using that as like in a validation system. And it's also interesting that's also based on the same tech. So on one end, that could be an advantage because that way everything's all in the same system, easier to program, follows all the same programs, everything's consistent. My only problem is that you know, normally it would be like if you're connecting to too many third-party things, you're spreading your attack surface, so you can easily get hacked. But the reverse is true, where while it might be harder to do something that even if it's open source is more proprietary, meaning it's from your own engineering team, once that's broken, everything else is also based off of that. It's kind of like how hackers were easy to hack Red Dead Redemptions 2 online because it literally used the same engine as Grand Theft Auto Online, so a lot of the same commands, while the values were all different, and we covered that years ago in our PAX East talk. All the commands and the way you would access and break the game engine to hack it were the same because they were using the same base engine. The same way that when like new Resident Evil games come out, Capcom will release a demo, and then less than a day there's already mods for that because it's using the same RE engine that's already been cracked after Resident Evil 7 came out for PC. So that's sort of, I guess, the security trade-off there that I find fascinating. But let's let the foreign man continue here.
That's really important because it's only on that condition that actually a requester is able to create what we call a collection lock. What is a collection lock? A collection lock is a special kind of lock which is there to actually contain all the data which are required to describe a set of, I would say, safe tokens, so legally binding tokens, right? So as I mentioned, requester must be linked to the owner of the collection lock by an ID lock. And once the collection lock is closed, what we can do is start to associate items and records to it. So a collection item is actually an object which is linking an NFT or a set of fungible tokens or a set of semi-fungible tokens. It depends on the blockchain you are working in. But it's linking those tokens to the collection lock, all right? It may have some files attached to it. So for instance, you want to associate the digital asset which is linked to one of your NFT, well, you will attach it to the item. That's where it goes. You may also attach terms and conditions about the usage that actually applies to the digital asset which is linked to the item. And finally, yeah, all the data which are linked to the item are public, except for the file's content, of course.
So as you can see, we're almost halfway done already with this talk, but I do want to interject here and say that what was I going to do here? That yeah, once again, it is like it's both fascinating yet concerning that, again, they're using the same sort of lock system across their entire platform. I'm trying to keep going because I've had like a crazy week, so my brain's not all there, even more than usual. But yeah, I'm just like concerned about like once a hacker breaks any part of this lock system, that unless there's like different encryption methodology between the different lock types, that this whole thing would blow open in free reign. The other thing about this is that the way he describes it is that, as an example with the NFT, because the thing about NFTs, like what we covered many episodes ago, most NFTs, like unlike the way I think they should be done, which I think it should be like a PGP or GPG sort of thing where the image has a stenography piece of code in it, like stenography wise, and then the actual link in the NFT asset has the rest of that code, so it's like a public and private key. And when you look at the two keys, that's when it's like, oh, it's validated, you actually own this. Most of these, while the chain can verify the actual NFT part of the blockchain, the actual NFT itself is a link to something that is static, hence the Web 3.0, which is where things are machine readable. That would solve that problem. But since we're not there yet, and right now companies, even Polkadot hasn't really even addressed or have thought about the sort of interoperability, that's the way most NFTs are, and that's why there's the joke of, oh, you can just right click and save them and then you technically own them, because the NFT is not really doing much better because it's already linked to something that is on Web 2.0 on a ClearNet. That's the reality of that. And so another concern about this method, even though I do like the way the methodology that they're using in the actual like encryption steps itself, is that it sounds like that this is their software, their lock system literally is the pathway between the URL in the NFT and then the data that URL points to, which means that if that's compromised, you literally have a man in the middle of attack, because it's operating literally as a middleman for the two parts, where the chain itself that has the link and then the actual 2.0 air quote asset that actually is there, like the stupid ass AI Bored Ape or whatever that you bought. So just it's like it's weird, because like on one end I like what he's saying about that we should be thinking about privacy, it should be by default, and I even like the overall idea of this system, but just because everything's running on its own stuff and it's the between the data and the processing, my thing is, once and if it goes wrong, all hell will break loose. So that's like my only real concern so far we've been talking about.
Tokens records, they are more or less the same. They can also be published later and attached to a collection log, but they are not linking anything. They're just there to publish some additional documentation which must be contributed after the collection log was closed. So for instance, let's say you are in a case of real estate tokenization, all right? You may have to publish every year a proof that, first, your building still exists, and second, that the loans are being paid properly, and etc. One very important building block of our platform is what we call the ownership check.
Ah, there it is.
So we have to be able to check if you are actually the owner of some token. How do we do that? So first, you as a user are identified by a public key, by your address actually. So we have to first verify that you are actually the owner of the private key that's behind it, all right? So how do we do that? Well, basically, you request a challenge from our platform, sign it, send the signature back. We verify that the signature is valid, and if it is, we send you back an authentication proof. That authentication proof is simply a JSON Web Token that you will be afterwards reuse to actually interact with our API, all right?
So I normally would duck on this concept that it seems to be sort of and that's also the sort of trade-off you have with security is, you always hear when you talk about security for anything, but particularly computing, of this sort of balance between like user usability and you're actually able to secure stuff. And traditionally, when you add or subtract one, the other gets added or subtracted. So if you make something traditionally, I'm just saying, because there's obviously exceptions, but it's like for a lot of times when someone wants to make something easier to use and access, they skimp out on the security part and those extra steps because, you know, time and usability, and then things are hacked easier. But then a lot of times I've seen things where, you know, they want people to use it, but they've added so much complexity for the arbitrary sake of security, like beyond what's necessary, that they end up either turning people away or just sort of breaking their own system because they've had too many steps involved, and that's always been a balance. So, you know, normally when we talk about crypto stuff, especially when Polkadot does, they're usually really focused on decentralization, hence the whole parachain concept. And so it's fascinating to see someone with the talk of talking about of like, oh, we're basically our own DAO, and that's how you're going to be able to, like, you know, send stuff for approval and denial. And then my big red flag is like, what happens if someone at this company gets like compromised or makes a mistake, where, you know, they can, you know, or someone gets access, they get escalated privilege to get that sort of judicial admin access so that they can approve and disapprove anything that they want, especially if they blend into the other validators, which, you know, we've seen problems with that with Bitcoin and Ethereum nodes. So, like, I don't know if he has an answer for that around there. I don't know if there's Q&A and someone brings that up, but this is stuff, and this is not shitting on his project, because again, I like the idea of privacy and security by default, especially if even part of the internet's going to be entirely tokenized. But this is the extra stuff you need to think. This is why when I attended Polkadot, a lot of people were happy that last year, Polkadot Decoded, they were happy that someone like me showed up, because, you know, I would say if you really want your tech project to get off, both security-wise and design-wise, just go and talk to hackers. Go out. If you have the money, hire them. Everything will improve immediately. I'll give the approval to that. So let's finish this talk here.
And basically, once you interact with our API through an authenticated call, we are actually able to verify if indeed you are owning that token by interrogating some kind of external service. So the restricted delivery is that feature. Once we actually verify that you are indeed the owner of a given token, it's the fact that we are opening you the access to some files contents. All right. So there are several levels for that. First level, so as I mentioned, you can attach files to the collection item. If you are the owner of the token of the item, well, you have access to the files of it. Another special case, we can also open access to files which are attached to the lock itself. There, the rule is a little bit different. We just verify that you are one of the owner of tokens attached to the whole collection, right? Same goes for the tokens records files. So I was talking about the login certificate at the beginning of this presentation. Here, this is what it looks like. It's simply a web page, actually. And you can see it as a kind of viewer of all the public data that are available on-chain. And it's a little bit more than that if you are targeting one specific item, because at that point, it also opens access to the restricted delivery feature, where basically you are able to authenticate. And if you are authenticated and we are able to verify that you are indeed owning the token, then basically you have a couple of buttons appearing and giving you the possibility to download the files and list the tokens records which are associated with the collection lock. So that was about the data model and the processes. So let's now talk a little bit about the architecture of our platform. So that's more or less the kind of stuff you see all the time. We have nodes. We have, edge nodes to access the content of the blockchain. The specific part we have is that our nodes, there is, in addition to the substrate service, also a Postgres database which is running, which is used to actually store private data. We have also the services.
He just said the word Postgres, so I instantly have a migraine. Joy.
Which are linked to our private IPFS network, all right? Because we are not using the public IPFS. We are only using the IPFS we're running on our own nodes.
So it's interesting because if they're committed to like this sort of like centralization lock system, is kind of, at least there seems to be fully truly committing to that. This is the first time I've ever seen someone, like, I've seen people make like their own IPFS just because they're distributing their own product, but to have literally your own nodes and pathways and stuff just in order to do the security on this is really fascinating to see.
We have, of course, the login of change service, which is running. And then as a client, we have a web application, which is basically, well, interacting with your MetaMask or your Polkadot extension to have access to your key pairs. Well, not directly access your key pairs, but being able to use them to actually sign some stuff, etc. And we have also a directory, which is basically.
Yes, don't access Polkadot. Don't access those peers because you guys are Polkadot, not WorldCoin. Ugh, that's an episode we covered. That is the gift that keeps on giving, because people keep bringing up WorldCoin and people keep bringing up the episode that we did it, because rightfully so. That whole thing is you talk about dystopia nightmare. Holy crap.
Basically there only to expose the public data which are identifying the legal officers. So the link between the legal officer and his node is something that's stored on chain, but we also need some additional information like the address, the phone number, the mail address, and stuff like that. So how do we achieve data privacy in that kind of architecture? Basically by carefully choosing where we put our data. So on-chain substrate storage, that's for public information only. And all the private data are going either in the IPFS network, so that's essentially for the files, and in the private databases, that's for all the rest, I would say. So IPFS and databases are, of course, not accessible directly from the user perspective, I would say. You have to pass through our off-chain service, which is implementing the authentication that I was describing previously.
Oh, so it's off-chain.
And another important stuff is the fact that nodes are not sharing data, all right? So someone which is looking at the data on one node does not have access to the data of another node, even if he's actually participating in the same IPFS network. Why? Because we are actually encrypting all the information we are storing in the IPFS, and each node has its own encryption key, right? That's very important. And regarding the databases, well, I will not dive into that, but we actually implemented a mechanism which is able to produce almost real-time backups of the database and inject them in the IPFS network. Again, always in a way that actually we are encrypting everything.
Jesus, that must be one hell of a goddamn pipeline.
So, quickly, a little example. How does that work? First, here you have the screen of what requester would see. So the requester, who's that? Basically, you are a tokenizer. Okay, you are about to create your items, first stuff. Well, after identifying yourself, you are creating your collection lock. You are providing a bunch of data which are actually required to make sure that indeed you are the owner of the building. You have all the rights to actually sell part of it in the form of tokens. And we verify who you are, and et cetera, et cetera. Okay? This log here, we see that all the information have been recorded and acknowledged. It's closed, so we are actually able to publish items if we want. Second, let's say that you are actually publishing your items in the forms of an ERC, 11455. All right? Well, that's a very, very simple form. Of course, you will not use that kind of stuff. But the interesting part here is the fact that we are providing a little Logian smart contract, which is actually there to help you. It implements those three functions, read functions, which are actually there to show that indeed your contract is linked, and the items, the tokens, sorry, it will actually mint. It shows that everything is linked to one given lock and its items. All right, so we have a kind of backlink from the contract to your certificate. Also, if you are using ERC 1155 tokens, you will more than probably have metadata. So those metadata, you should also put all the information in there. So this is you have the collection ID, so that's the ID of the lock. Item ID, that's the ID of one single item, which is actually linked to your NFT. And finally, you have the address of the certificate, all right? And the advantage of putting that in your metadata is that basically more than probably a platform that's actually displaying your NFT will use those metadata to actually display some stuff, in particular the certificate, right? So this is actually the item you will create in addition to the lock, the contract, and the token that you minted. So here we, well, maybe don't see it, it's a little bit small, but here it's an ERC1155 girly token. We have the identifier here, which is a composition of the address of the contract
There's
and the token ID.
Here, girly token.
Right. And after that, you have the certificate. It looks a little bit like the certificates you've seen before. The only difference is that here,
Let's not gender blockchains. We already have bad enough time in real life with that.
Which enables me to actually choose, well, the extension I want to use to actually authenticate and check the ownership of the token. So, as a conclusion, we covered Logion's data model and processes, at least a part of them, the most important part. We discussed a little bit about how we are actually protecting privacy and confidentiality in our platform. And we covered quickly a simple example of real estate tokenization with a really simple contract that you should not use in production. Thank you. And if you want to dig a little bit deeper, well, feel free. We are not hiding anything. Everything is open source and published and available. And that's it.
Thank you, Gerard. And now we have some minutes. If somebody has any question, please raise your hand. And no questions? OK, there's one question there. You have the microphone over there.
All right. Thank you very much. Can you talk a little bit about actual references? Is it already live somewhere? Has some reputable company already done anything with it or anything like that?
So, yeah, so the system is production ready. It's already running. We have several, well, test environments, but those are not test nets in the in the way we are generally seeing them. But we have a production environment. We have some use cases, which are we have a project with I don't know, can I say it? Well, we have a project with block.imo. I don't know if you know them. There will be a real tokenization happening here beginning of July. And yeah, we'll probably hear of it if you follow our Twitter and our LinkedIn and stuff. There will be some announcements soon.
There's another question over there.
Can you tell us a bit about how you manage the certificates? So that's chronically difficult, yeah, especially at scale. You know, the inscription.
I was going to bring that up.
What's your approach here?
I was going to, well, hold on a second. Let me fix the mic real quick. Okay, so that's that. And now let's switch it back. Huh, that's weird. All right. Find out. I don't know what that's artifacting here. It wasn't there in the beginning. Hold on. Maybe I need to. Okay. It has nothing to do with the decibels. Alright, I'm going to just switch to the different mic. There we go. Okay. So this is the more slightly muffled mic, but at least there's not that artifacting because this computer is crap. But yeah, he's bringing up about the certificates. If no one brought that up, that was a thing I was going to bring up because, you know, if you've ever run a website with decent, just keeping standards up for it, and God forbid you touch the actual web config of it, you know how crazy juggling certificates are. I mean, it's so crazy that when we did ours for our last website we redesigned, we actually announced that we were able to achieve all of those, and like even Dark Tangent celebrated that, which, by the way, thank you, N Commander, for that. So I'm glad this question brought up, and I'm interested to hear what his answer is, and then we're going to move on to the next talk. If we're able to fit one more talk in, I'll see, but these were the two I mainly wanted to cover, so let's see if he gives a proper answer here, or if he dodges the question.
Well, we we did not yet face scalability issues linked to encryption. But basically, the thing is that as we have several nodes, well, each node is responsible for one certificate. So unless you are actually, well, grouping all your certificates on one single node, well, you are able to actually, well, spread the load, I mean. So that's basically the way we will be doing it. I don't know if that answers your question, actually. No. So I did not understand your question, I think. Can you maybe repeat? Can you rephrase your question? I did not understand, I think.
I'll try. So essentially you have this network of nodes, yeah, who transact. So you have two nodes, if I understood you correctly, maybe I didn't, yeah? So you have this network of nodes, they share encrypted information through transactions, correct?
Yeah, but so each node is responsible for encrypting its own data, okay, once. And after that, the data are more or less spreading across the network using IPFS.
And who guarantees the authenticity of this network or this node certificate? Do you have an instance? Who is the final authority to judge?
Sorry, I really don't understand you.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe
I can claim something about myself. Yeah. Who is going to attest that what I'm claiming about myself, that I'm the authority here, is really true?
Sorry, there is too much noise. I really don't. But you know what? I will come to you later, and I will.
Offline.
Because, sorry, I'm really sorry. I don't hear you.
I will say this: if he's actually dodging the question, this is like a brilliant, sneaky way to do it. I don't think so. I literally think, especially with the two different accents, that he legit didn't understand what he was saying, and probably because the person asking didn't bring up like certificate validation. Basically, it's how, when these certificates are processed encrypted, are they evaluated, who or what is the final say on the validation of it, and that's what's confusing. Like, I get it just because English is a bastard language and I can piece together what the hell they were saying, but like, I legit don't think he's trying to dodge it. I think he literally just got confused because no one mentioned the word validation in it.
Okay, well, maybe you can ask him now under the stage. So thank you so much, Gerard, for your talk. Thank you.
So that was that talk with by default. And again, I like that the concept of that there should be privacy and encryption at default on all of these chains, especially if they're going to go for the truly dystopian nightmare that is Web3. My only concern, again, is that it's almost like Polkadot and its parachains are so decentralized that their security solution is essentially to reel that decentralization in and make something that's more centralized and more accurately, ooh, that was a sneaky burp, actually everything's using the same sort of protocol, which they call lock, which again, if that breaks because it's wedged in between all the communications on everything for its implementation, that would be a huge score for a hacker and a huge W for the hacker. Would be a big L for this team. I do want to quickly show before we go to the next talk that it falls on GitHub, and I will actually share the original leak. This was the code he was talking about, and if we have time at the very, very end, I might run the test in for this whole network platform that he brought up. So just putting that out there. All right, so let's go to the second talk here. And the second talk on security, and it's in the text age, is, where are you? Here we go. Securing the Polkadot ecosystem, uncovering impact. And this was the other second big talk. So let's do this, and then we might do one or two little minor things, and then that will be the wrap for the episode. Again, if anyone in chat has any questions about what we're watching, what we're doing, what the show is, who am I, who are you, why are the unicorns riding the blue cat people from Avatar if you're on those sort of drugs, or just breathing in Canadian wildfire smoke, please ask us in chat here. I love a lively chat. However, if you're just here to just watch stuff creepingly in your basement and have weird, cool photographs of me that you're obsessed over. As I always say, each episode, keep lurking, keep learning. And if you need talking heads, so I'm going to attempt to read this because, by the way, every time someone comments on Twitch, uh, they always have a username where I feel like they're really trying to challenge my ability to read, which I already have a handicap on because I'm an American. So, too big to fail in leet speak. There we go. How do I work this? It sounds like you sound like what most people would say on the second day at Hackers on Planet Earth because of all the drugs. Too big to flail. Okay, so not fail, flail. Interesting. That sounds like a BDMS thing. But thank you for liking the show. Thank you for the comment. And if you like what you see and you haven't done so yet, because doing this will allow you to keep reminders, especially if we're running late, keep updating on the schedule and stuff. And also, when it happens, we get notifications that we cheer you on. You can follow us on Twitch, YouTube, and Odyssey. I mean, you can also follow us on our other two ones like PeerTube. However, when particularly follow us on Twitch, YouTube, and Odyssey, not only does that benefit us because the stupid algorithms focus on us more, which means more exposure to this stuff, which means people get to learn from hackers and their mistakes and their logic, as we do on TCG 201. And you get like alerts for when we're actually on the stream and stuff. So it helps us and it helps you. Help me, help you. Discord. That we do get notifications for those and we get to cheer you on the streams. Just pointing that as a perk. You can follow us when we're not live streaming, but it's extra fun when we are live streaming, especially, which I'm hoping to do next month when we start going back to charity streams. So, yep, people helping people. So, to continue on, we're going to go to probably the most obvious security talk in the tech section, securing the Polkadot ecosystem, uncovering the impact of it, is by this duo. And let's... because the DevOps one is interesting, but this one's directly about security. So let's give this one a watch, and then we're going to wrap up the episode. And by the way, I will say the past two Polkadot Decodeds, when they did it virtually, they were doing hopped in. And as I was explaining to one of the people here at Hack Manhattan, we rage quit, and we're looking at you, Diane Initiative, when you use hop in, because hop in works if you're just attending a virtual convention. When you try to stream it, hop in is just so badly, like it handles all the bandwidth and stuff for the website so wrong that it will literally tank the website. So props for not only Polkadot making their own application and their own delivery system for their virtual conference, but by doing so, it allows people who are trying to stream and react to it like us, options for the bit rate and things like that, so that way we can have like a stream that's not going at 6 frames a second, so not doing redfall FPSs. So thank you for Polkadot with your weird ass engineering team for doing that. So without further ado, let's see what these two people have to say about the security of the entire platform.
Securing the Polkadot ecosystem, uncovering impactful vulnerabilities, and introducing best practices. Well, I think it's now? Sure, okay. So now, yes, let's welcome to the stage Regina Viro and Kevin
She's so
Valerio
unsure.
from
Sure,
SR
now,
Labs.
yes, yes, no, yes, buy, sell, no, wait, up, down, left, right, A, B, start. Like the host has been hilarious in the entire thing. Like she's like that with the other talks too. Someone's fighting through Windows Manager to try to load their talk. Do 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 do. Watch, we're gonna get DMCA'd again, probably on YouTube, because you just sing like 6 notes now, and then a giant nuclear missile with the DMCA logo comes and hits you in the ass. So, welcome to this nightmare. If it goes on for more than 10 more seconds, I'll try to skip ahead and see if we get the start of this. Because it's nice to know that we're not the only one with technical difficulties here. Presentation, please, just don't look there. I like the LGBT
Perfect.
Ubuntu symbol she has, or they have. I don't know
Awesome.
what their
Hello,
gender
everybody.
pronouns are.
Nice to be here. Let's get started with our presentation. Today we are going to talk about security. And first, let's get introduced to each other. So my name is Regina. This is Kevin, my colleague. We both work at SR Labs. And basically, this talk is about how we have been keeping the Polkadot ecosystem secure as trusted advisors in the past years. So before we start with the presentation, I want to give you a really bad example of what could happen if you may neglect security or you don't configure your palettes in a secure way. So let's take the example here of SR chain, which is a hypothetical parachain. So it's not.
I like that they start off with like, here's how everything looks like when it's fucked up. So I like these two already.
Live, it's not an existing project, it's just for our example. SR chain is currently experiencing a downtime. Block production has stopped in the past few hours. The team is in panic mode. They don't know what caused the issue. It could have been active exploitation. It could have been just a bug that got triggered. Basically, the token price has dropped significantly in the past hours, and basically, people don't know what is happening. So this is a scenario that none of you would want to end up as. So let's see the potential root cause for such an issue. In this case, in this example, this is a misconfiguration issue with the elections palette. So of course, the elections palette is implementing a function of democracy. And in a democratic system, the more people participating, the more democratic your system is. So in its way, it's a good thing. However, in a blockchain, you also have limited resources. You have limited execution time. And if you have a number of voters that is already pretty high, and if you allow a voter to vote for more than one person or more than one candidate, this can significantly blow up once you try to calculate the election result. So this can also mean that this calculation doesn't fit into your block execution time, which will make your validators or collators miss their slot and could cause such a timeout. So in this case, this bug we found a couple of months ago. We responsibly disclosed it to Parity, who then disclosed it to the ecosystem and showed a way forward, basically how to configure this palette securely. We, of course, did not only find this one bug. We have many more that the team has already mitigated or are working on to fix, and we will show you a couple of more examples. So now let's get started with our talk. So first I'm going to walk you through some kind of basic threat ideas for the ecosystem that could apply to Polkadot and parachains. Then I will discuss our methodology in detail. And then I will give the word to Kevin, who will walk you through some more concrete examples of bugs that we typically find. And then we will close with some best practices. So let's get started. First, we want to talk about integrity. So if you are building a blockchain project, you want to ensure that your blockchain is trustworthy and reliable. If a user wants to do certain actions or transactions, they expect them to be executed in a way that, you know, how it's supposed to be. So, for example, some ways to undermine the integrity of a blockchain, it could be that you apply some vesting periods to your token holders. If a malicious token holder can somehow break this vesting schedule and just, you know, spend the tokens earlier than intended, of course, this breaks the integrity. Another thing that we will also explain a little bit later is a censorship attack. So if you have a sort of trusted validation or collators, you don't want them to start censoring your transactions, maybe selecting the ones or rearranging via priority, because this can also directly break the integrity. They can also use it to do front-running attacks, which we also want to avoid here. Another important aspect is the availability of your blockchain. So of course, if you have an application, you want your users to be able to use it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And basically, if that doesn't happen, it causes annoyance. Maybe people use a different platform. And it's basically just not a nice user experience, not be able to do your normal way of operations. Some examples, what could undermine the availability of the blockchain, for example, wrong weight calculation, which kind of points to a similar direction of the bug that I already explained. But another example is, for example, runtime panics that Kevin will explain in detail later. So now let's move on towards our methodology. So not surprisingly, basically the first thing that we start when you start to assess a new blockchain project is threat modeling. So we found that this is the most efficient way to find really relevant bugs for an application, because we really have to understand what they are trying to accomplish there, and then basically put ourselves into the hacker's boots, so to speak, and try to understand what do they want to undermine here, what do they want to gain from attacking this system. Is it the availability? Maybe they want to have some financial gains, maybe they just want to undermine the reputation. So basically this is the very first thing that we start with when we do an assessment. The second thing is the design verification. So as a second step, we get deeper into the documentation of the
I don't know if they mentioned any sort of links. What type of links are you talking about? And I'll see if I can resolve that in chat.
blockchain project, try to understand if they already thought about some threat scenarios, maybe as a protocol design they are already by default mitigating against them, and we have to see if this is sufficient or not. The third step,
As much as I want to blow through this, I don't remember her saying links, so I'm just going to rewind it slightly and see if they mentioned it here, because like I am mostly 98% paying attention, but I'll put it this way, I'm more sleep deprived than I was yesterday when we had technical difficulties, so I might have missed that. So I just rewinded it a little bit, and I'm going to see if I can catch what she's saying here. They're saying.
let's move on towards our methodology. So not surprisingly, basically the first thing that we start when you start to assess a new blockchain project is threat modeling. So we found that this is the most efficient way to find really relevant bugs for an application, because we really have to understand what they are trying to accomplish there, and then basically put ourselves into the hacker's boots, so to speak, and try to understand what do they want to undermine.
So just to note, one downside, I guess, of them, I mean, technically they are rolling their own crypto, but making their own like competent live streaming platform for their own conference, is that they end up making an auto voice text subtitle generator that somehow is worse than Google's on YouTube. So they're not saying tech modeling, they're saying threat modeling, which is, I mean, it's kind of in the name, but the dumb, dirty explanation, which I'll probably get a lot of shit for in the comments, is that it's literally what it sounds like: threat modeling. You're modeling threats. You're looking at the landscape of your piece of tech or your platform, and you're thinking of all the different ways that a potential attacker can slip its way in, or just something where the system goes wrong even without a malicious attack. Again, we were doing threat modeling when they were bringing up the whole privacy at base thing, and thinking about that, since it's so centralized in that their lock service is between, particularly with NFTs, the actual ownership on the blockchain and the link to the actual Web 2.0 asset, that once that's compromised, it would be the ultimate man-mill attack, because literally that's how the software is designed. It's literally a in-between. It's in the middle. And that sort of observation is threat modeling. So that's what they were talking about. It wasn't tech modeling, it's threat modeling. I just turned on subtitles because I'm trying to be more, and we strive for this in our in-person meetings too, but we're trying to be more accessibility friendly. But I can only do as good as what Polkadot provides. And so if you're ever confused by the terms, let me know, because I mean, I was born and raised to listen to English, and sometimes I don't know what the hell people are saying. And again, the AI bot is just sad for the subtitles. So let's go back to this. So the thing they're going to mention is modeling, verifying, check, and remediate, which is like basic cybersecurity 101, but I'm glad that they're covering this for this audience, especially at Polkadot.
Here, what do they want to gain from attacking this system? Is it the availability? Maybe they want to have some financial gains, maybe they just want to undermine the reputation. So basically this is the very first thing that we start with when we do an assessment. The second thing is the design verification. So as a second step, we get deeper into the documentation of the blockchain project, try to understand if they already thought about some threat scenarios, maybe as a protocol design they are already by default mitigating against them, and we have to see if this is sufficient or not. The third step is the checking phase or the hacking phase. So here we actually get deep into the code, we do manual code analysis, and we also have some helping tools in the like specifically fuzzing and static analysis. We will also talk about it a little bit later. And finally, we also help the team through the remediation process. So, of course, we discover a number of bugs, normally for every project. Of course, we don't leave the team hanging there because we want to make sure that the mitigation that they implement for these bugs are actually fixing the bugs, and also that they are not introducing new bugs, which is sometimes the case, but fortunately not so many times.
See, that's a very, not only just general hacker mentality, but particularly what we would call too as a white hat mentality, which is white hats. So in like the dirty traditional sense, they're like the actual cybersecurity people with the name tags and stuff. They usually work for companies and organizations, and they're trying to stop the black hats, which are usually sometimes syndicate, but individual, people that like to just break things for fun or for crime. But also, like, again, this is why some hackers don't really like the term white hat and black hat, and that it's less of a division, but more on a spectrum. To be fair, kind of like human sexuality for some degree, but that this is very white hat, as we would probably say at like DEF CON or something, way of thinking of that. And this is honestly was part of the traditional hacker mindset in general, which is that when you're attacking something and trying to figuring out the problem, you don't just want to attack it and be like, haha, I attacked, this is amazing. You want to, partly bragging, but also to help, you want to show how the attack worked, and then from that, how it could be prevented in the future, because that's just a thorough way of thinking. That's how you improve security. So, you can't just be going around like, just like, it's like what George Carlin said about blues, which is, it's not enough to know what notes need to be played, you need to know why they need to be played. You can't just be like destroying, wrecking shit and just be like, oh, ha, ha, ha. You have to like be thorough and actually explain, it's like being in school, show your homework, how did you do it? And then by looking at that homework, we can actually like improve something instead of just, otherwise you're just throwing a digital brick at a digital window. And sometimes that's fun, but to use more quotes from American Pie, it's fun, but it's not a game.
Now, so I talked about this 4-step process. As you can see, this is something that you cannot really imagine we can perform within a day or within even a week. So this is something that takes months. Like we normally take 2 months to do this. This also means for the whole ecosystem, like you see the two of us here at SR Labs, we have a team of 8. This doesn't really scale well for, all the 42 parachains plus Polkadot. So basically what we do also to have a bigger impact on the ecosystem is participating in the Substrate Builders program, not as a participant, but as a provider. So basically we do security assessments for all the parachains that are getting onboarded on Polkadot. And we also are able to find a lot of bugs there. So here you see on this slide the 5 most common bug types that we identify via our SBP assessment. And as you can see, they also already cover the availability and the integrity aspects. Now, what is the difference?
By the way, what she showed there real quick is called an assessment chart. And these sort of things are just like these easy to read sort of like visual diagrams that lets you know immediately visually like where the plus and minuses. It's kind of like an RPG sort of visualization stat system. And if you want to know more about that sort of stuff, the Tech Learning Collective, which I might type in the link later, has a great class talking about how you as a personal digital citizen of the internet can make your own threat modeling sort of visualization chart, so that you know your strengths and weaknesses, what to work on. So it's not just for corporations, individuals can use this too.
BP. First of all, we don't have so much time because there are a lot of teams. So basically, all these assessments just take 1 week instead of several months. So here we focus on dynamic and static analysis. And of course, this is way less work. We skip the threat modeling, we skip the design verification, we also skip manual code review. So we are not able to find logic bugs, which can be the most relevant because they will directly follow our threat model. But it's still really a valuable step if somebody is building a blockchain project. And we really encourage everybody to go through it. So how does it work? Basically, we receive the scope details in a private channel, what is the target repository, the target runtime, the revision, and then we configure our fuzzer, we run it against the target code base, optimize it throughout the week.
It's interesting because I actually haven't checked to see if FuzzCon is coming back this year during Hacker Summer Camp. They skipped last year. They were there the year before that, and we actually live stream covered it because it's like a half a day sort of mini convention just on fuzzing, which, you know, is more complicated, but again, nitty-gritty dirty thing is fuzzing is, instead of having hard numbers like binary where you have 0 off or 1 is on, there's a bit more of a range between it. It's not quantum mechanics where they can like be like both ones existing in the same place at the same time, or a 1 and a 0 in a chair all together, but basically you're doing like 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, all the way up to 2. So there's a bit more of like a range in terms of what you're actually implementing with a numerical system, and that's the very rough and dirty and super simplistic version of what fuzzing is.
Then we also perform some static analysis. And then, of course, if we find some bugs, we immediately report them to the parachain team who can then fix them. And as you can see, we worked with most of the parachains that are live currently at Polkadot, which is also great. So in this next slide, you can see all the bugs run down by category that we have identified since we participate in SBP, which is over the past year and a half. As you can see, benchmarking seems to be the most common issue. Please do your benchmarking if you are planning to participate in SBP, because it's super important. We think that one root cause could be that this is the last step during your development process, and we might perform the security analysis before you get to do your benchmarking. But nevertheless, this is a very important step also for security. Other typical issues are arithmetic issues, for example, unsafe math. And then there is recently a trend of reachable panic issues, which is a trend that we do not advise.
Subtitles, she said unsafe math, and it thought she said unsafe meth. And just the idea that there's unsafe meth means that there's also safe meth, which I guess is what, pseudoephedrine that you get at the pharmacy? That's just too funny.
You to follow, but with this one, I will give it to Kevin, who will talk about the panic issues further.
Thank you. So yeah, let's go through some impactful bugs now, a little bit more inside the technique. So Regina said we want a chain basically to be available 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. It makes sense for all technology, but specifically that one, right? So the way that the collectors work inside the Polkadot ecosystem and with the parachain is that they can communicate with each other. Now, the problem is that if an attacker, a malicious entity, is at some point able to craft an extrinsic and a malicious extrinsic and send it to a collector, this collector might, depending on the bug, crash because of a panic, and then this will be spread all over the collectors, right? So this obviously, it has consequences for everyone. The users first, the user might not be able to operate with the blockchain anymore.
I love the
whatever, if it's with
icon for
a browser extension,
hacker.
if it's with mobile application. There might be some delays also. Obviously, there is consequences for the parachain and the dev, because this kind of bugs take some time to be fixed. You need to find where the bug is. You need to find how to fix it. Once you fix it, if there is no collateral damages, and then you need to commit, push everything, tell every participant of the network to update the code base and so on. So it takes a lot of time. And now, just to finish on that slide, there is an interesting case where if the attacker is the collector, is one of the collector, he might just change his code, and then he fix the code himself or put some kind of configuration to his runtime. So then he won't be affected by the malicious extrinsic. And then not only will have some availability problem, but also some integrity, because he might be able to perform some kind of malicious, some kind of censorship attacks. So a very basic way, and the most critical one we see to really kill this availability is with the unwrap function, for example. So if an unwrap is triggered and return unknown, for all the devs here, you know this probably already, it will basically crash. In Substrate, it will panic and so crash. That's a decision made also by the language, is that we prefer to have a program to crash instead of having a value that doesn't make sense. Right? So here you can see in that example, we do a multiplication and we realize, oh, actually it goes a little bit out of the boundaries in terms of memory allocation. So what we do, we crash. And that is something that we need to avoid. Now, this was for the availability. There is also bugs for integrity. So this one is a little bit more technical. Before, I will just spend some time explaining why randomization is quite useful in those cases, because the next bug you will see it will be about randomization. So we can use randomization for a lot of cases. The first one is, let's imagine, for example, a scenario where a parachain wants to select some users, and then for users, to receive an airdrop. Now, if someone is able to predict or to impact the random number at some points, it might be able to, I don't know, predict who's going to win. And obviously, this has some bad impact. Also, you can use randomness for the collector selection. And we don't want to be able to predict who is going to be the next collator, because then we might just dose the collator, which might be an issue. So we found a few months ago an issue with the random collective flick palette. So this palette is used to manage everything about randomization. And the way it works is that it will calculate a random number for the previous block based on the block hash of the 81 previous block plus the current block hash. Now, the problem with this is that if at some point someone is able to, with enough energy and resources, to rearrange the extrinsic and to calculate this hash, then you might be able, with a certain threshold and probability, to predict this number. So then.
Just as a reminder, in our first episode, and we've repeated this, including the episode where we talk particularly about security, coins, and blockchains, that predictability is an issue, especially if you, to be honest, do shitty encryption, in which, you can take basically any gaming PC and turn it into a brute forcer, and it not only works with passwords, but also works with decoding and reverse engineering of an encryption method. So that's also this is a big problem here, especially because that's how a lot of blockchains, including Polkadot, does their validation systems. So that's why he's highlighting it here in particular.
And obviously, not only can predict, but also maybe influence this number. So now we would like to explain maybe some best practices that every team should be aware of. The first one, Regina mentioned it already, it's about the benchmarking. Don't forget to do the benchmarking at the end of each milestone, right? Like most frequently as possible, because a lot of time we see a lack of good benchmarking. And this can have some bad effect on the chain, and also for the users. Also, something good to have in mind is to use some storage deposits. Why? Basically, just to provide the economical incentive to the users to clean up the storage after using it, right? So if we lock a little bit of token from the user and we tell him, okay, you will get this money back once you remove some data, then it's better not only for the storage, but for everyone. Also, try avoid to use raw mathematical function like the plus multiplied, and because then this might have some impacts, integrity and availability bugs. And for this, Rust provides some functions that manage everything like with overflowing, underflowing, and all these kind of issues. And finally, obviously, avoid as much as possible using functions like unwrap or expect everything that might trigger at some point and a panic into the runtime. Yeah. So I'll finish this presentation by getting some more abstracted best practices related to the security of every project. So the first one is try to do as much as possible some security audits. And not only with one security provider, right? Try to use different one because each security firm has its own way of thinking, its own way of, like, its own methodology. So then the more you diversify, the better.
I love that he used the term diversify for this because I've also talked about this. Real quick, there's even a human evolution context around this, which is why probably apes, including us great apes, form social circles at a base level is because our eyes face completely forward, which means we don't have the peripheral vision and we're not owls and can't turn our heads completely behind us, which means we are open for attack on those sides. So if you have more other monkeys around you, they're looking in different directions so they can see all the angles that you can't see. And by developing a communication method like what we're doing right now with vocal language and visual language, we can communicate when we've seen things that would benefit us in the group, potential hazards, etc. So the more diversity in terms of hacking, in terms of concepts, people with different backgrounds, not only as security things, but just life backgrounds, looking at your stuff, the more flaws you can expose, which means it's the more opportunity to patch and even better improve, which is why if anyone argues anything about diversity in tech, fire them if you're on their team, because that means they are probably just doing the same old, looking at the thing in the one perspective, and that means when their thing they're building gets pwned, it's going to be pwned really hard, and it would be funny if it didn't impact you so much. So I like that he used that word, and I like that this is a really good start of just like audit the shit out of everything. You can always evaluate and figure out better things. That's a constant truth, particularly in tech.
For the devs, try to think about all the edge cases when you code something, when you implement a feature. Try to think as maybe a parrot, a malicious entity that would like really to have a bad impact or whatever on the chain. Try to think a bit out of the box. And finally, use bug bounty, make bug bounty. It's cool for us. I mean, not for us, but for colleagues, white hats. And it's also cool for the community because it shows that you pay attention to the security.
Hats, by the way.
We all know how important it is in the crypto ecosystem, and it's better for everyone. So we use some fuzzing tools. We slightly talked about it before. A part of it is already open source. You can go to this Git here and see how it looks like. We are planning to open source more things in the future. But yeah, for now you can just go here and try to use it, improve it as much as you can, give some feedback, share some issues, and yeah, that's it. Feel free if you have any question.
Clarify what you said for where. So anyhow, that's not in order. And by the way, I'm really tired, so if I sound like I'm annoying and demanding, it's not because of that. It's because I'm going to sleep really well tonight. Oh, good question. Hang on, let's get out of full screen mode real quick. Let's see. SRL Labs. Let me look that up real quick. I have one of those like hacker keyboards that sounds like, like you're on a typewriter. It's like basically an AK-47 but as a keyboard. It's fucking stupid. Trying to think what they're talking about here. Open groups. Because I found their repository here. Creating IRD and browser. Hold on a moment. Hang on. And then we're going to wrap up the episode. Hmm. Okay, I think I found 2 of their repositories here. Let's see. So there's a containerism one, and then there's, hang on. We're gonna try to find this. I think this is the, I'm gonna share in chat the link, even though this is not the GitHub we're going to be focusing on at the end. But I think I mean, that's their general GitHub, but I think they're particularly for this talk are focusing on their telemetry lab. Multi-fuzzy manager user for all your Rust fuzzing needs. Good question. Okay, so now that that's more specific, hold on. Ah, there we go. I think that was the, okay, I think I found it. Yeah, it's called Ziggy. Here we go. So ignore that previous URL. Here it is. And we'll actually look at it browser-wise because we have to look at GitHub anyhow. I will say that I really did, let me go back. I really did like that talk. I know that for anyone who's like into already security, that probably came across a little basic, but you know, looking at all the scams and technical nightmares that you've seen in the blockchain world, this is like a breath of fresh air. This is the stuff that they need to be told and needs to be said, shouted from the rooftops and the people in the back, in order to prevent like you know, SBFs and Binance stupidity and stuff. Yeah, so that was a very good comprehensive talk. It's very good, like 101 security methodology sort of stuff. But there's plenty of talks here. I'm gonna wrap it up, not because I'm honestly kind of tired, uh, but there was just so much cool stuff, even on the main stage. Let's see here. You have like Web3 cloud stuff, social, you know, a lot of like social media decentralization. Um, Kilt protocols, which I think we did a fork of. Let's go back to tech stage here. IPFS integration into substrate. Let's see. Boost block development with chopsticks and Subway. Next generation smart contracts. They had, especially with Ink, they had a lot of good content stuff here. I'm just curious to see like how long this one is. Yeah, we're not going to watch it because it's 19 minutes and I want to wrap it up in the next 5 minutes anyhow. But if you go and search Polkadot Decoded 2023, you can find all of that there. You can still make an account. You can, yeah, that's the, see, everyone knows my legal name, so I don't care about displaying it, but there it is. So, yeah, it's Polkadot Decoded. Really good stuff. A lot of like, they also had like virtual stuff for like networking and stuff. Basically, they did hop in, but better. So I commend them of that. And, you know, it was also nice that if you weren't a rich asshole in order to end up in Copenhagen, that you didn't really feel between the viewing parties like the one in New York and all the virtual stuff that they had, you didn't. That's how I got the shirt, by the way. I already had the hat. You've seen the hat before, but like that you didn't feel left out. And I'm really glad that post-pandemic that Polkadot is still doing this sort of comprehensive virtualization, you know, making their own video and collaborative digital services for their conventions and things like that. So super huge commending them on that. So if you want to check it out, their YouTube does have 2 live streams from the 2 days, but interestingly enough, similar to what DEF CON did during DEF CON Safe Mode, aka DEF CON, trying to remember what year that was, like DEF CON 29. So that was the year where all the talks were pre-recorded, so they just released them on the Thursday of the con, and then all the live streaming stuff, they repeated those same talks that you could just download. But what was unique to those live streams was they had like all the Q&A and like the roundtables and interviews were on the live stream that you would normally see during the actual presentation. And they did the same thing here right now. If you go to Polkadot and you look up Polkadot Decoded on YouTube, their live streams are the actual Q&A interviews of the different speakers throughout the day, which has its own unique information. But these are currently just on their app, and then in about similar to like DEF CON and Black Hat and stuff, in like a month or 3, all of these should be available and searchable like on YouTube, even though I wish they would support like PeerTube and Odyssey and stuff. So I just want to wrap up with some bits and pieces here. So first of all, let's get out of here. Let's turn on the web browser. That's the Ziggy thing that was talked about. So I want to bring up 2 unrelated things that happened. It's crypto barons, it's like crypto stuff, but unrelated to, well, one's semi-related to not Polkadot Decoded, but Polkadot itself, which is 2 cool things in the blockchain space. And then we're going to try to redeem the NFT that was given out for the convention, walk through that again. And B, we're going to try one testnet thing that's really quick, and whether it succeeds or fails, that will be it. And then if you're on Twitch, we're going to raid someone. If you're on everything else, just hang around, look at some of the past videos we're on. You can look at those videos on Twitch, YouTube, and Odyssey, as well as also PeerTube. And you can also look through Invidious, both on ClearNet and Tor, which mirrors YouTube. So, and of course, we're on the Bird site, also streaming directly. So you have a lot of options to visit this post afterwards, but particularly if you're on Twitch, we're going to go raid a stream. So if you do want to keep up with like future notifications of when this show is on, we used to have a consistent schedule, but because of my current live streaming situation, everything's been up in the air. So you'll see on the social medias, and if you subscribe to us, particularly on Twitch, YouTube, and Odyssey, and if you're on YouTube, make sure you hit the bell and turn on all notifications, because it's not set to be on all notifications on default because YouTube is a badly coded piece of shit. But do that. You'll know when we come on. You'll see us on our social medias. I'll relist our social medias right at the end. But let's go through these 2 things. So first of all, and let's keep this consistent and do this related to Polkadot. One of the odd things that happened, let me see if I can find this, was during Polkadot, and actually let me double check. During Polkadot, the second day on June 27th, let me turn on the frickin' dark mode so we don't bleed our eyes. 9 p.m., and I was there for this at the New York meeting. The Manta network, which is one of the many parachains, they're known as the like super privacy secure token. They use ZK Snark. They use their own version of ZK Snarks and like the base layer privacy chain that's backed by Polychain, financed by Binance, and they interact a lot with Polkadot. They got their Twitter account compromised for a period of 3 hours. And what that Twitter account does is kind of like what hackers do when they take over YouTube of crypto stuff. They made a fake airdrop where when you put in your wallet credentials, it was able to reverse engineer access to the seeds of your wallet. And then if there was any tokens or NFTs or assets in there, these thieves would drain all of that. And what was even more annoying was that which was actually really cool. I will give props that, one, right now the Bird site is in absolute shambles, especially now. So, they still don't know from when I talked to them how exactly they got hacked. That might come out in like the next day or 2. They have theories. I also have my own theories of how this happened. I'm not going to get into, not because of legal stuff, just because I'm really tired. I might bring it up next episode. But they, the Bird site's not running terribly well. That's me being very generous and courteous to them, and the fucking muskrat that now runs it. And the thing about this that I also liked was that when this happened, they immediately reached out to Polkadot and all of their partners, and they're the ones who spread the word that, hey, the account got hacked, there's no airdrop, do not participate in anything in that account until they get their account back and cleared. I also know that the Bird site is so badly run and there's so little employees left that it literally took them probably forever, again, the 3 hours to get it back. Because most of the time when these things get hacked, like a celebrity gets hacked or a company, they get it back within like 20 minutes tops. This took 3 hours. That should tell you how much Twitter is just absolutely falling apart. And I think here, this is a sample. And here's one of the theories of how, because after they got into Twitter, and I guess the privilege escalation, because I guess the account was also linked to the Discord bot, they started doing the same thing with the Discord bot as well. So this is an example of like the fake drop. And it's interesting about it is the URL, where Manta is spelled MANTTA instead of AMTA, and that's that whole like faking. You can do this with fonts, you can do this off words, where, or like a malapropism where you think it's the real website, but it's not, because you're just so used to, it's like the way human brains work with like reading fonts or reading language, that you don't know it's misspelled or slightly off, or that's not the right domain, and then you end up in like a terrible hack like this. So that was one thing. The other thing, which is really weird, and as this progresses, I'm probably going to bring this up maybe next month during the preparation of DEF CON. So I'm just going to give a brief thing. We got tagged in something. We got tagged in this crazy thing that's called the Hacker 1337 Club, or the Hacker Elite Club. And I was like, okay, like they were tagging a lot of DEF CON stuff in particular. I'm like, why are we being tagged? So I did some investigation, and apparently it's like Bored Apes, but with like hacker stuff. It's really weird. We were so confused when we got tagged. I think we even like replied with a Randy Felt face GIF meme of like, you know, like, what the hell is this? Are we the Queen of England now? What is life? You know, the same existential stuff that was being asked in chat. So that's the other thing that recently happened. I'm going to investigate further, and then like maybe the second half of July or during August, I'll elaborate and feature what this is, because I'll put it this way: it looks like a scam. It just also might not be a scam and just be like a bunch of doofuses just thinking they're doing something cool and nice when it's just super fucking weird and confusing. But I thought I would mention that if you seeing us being tagged in Hacker Elite Club, this is not a project we're doing. This is not a prank. We have no idea who these people are, and we'll see how. I'm not, we're not putting in like our passwords and stuff. We're not doing like the Manta stuff, because, we're treating this with like chemical resistant gloves. But we'll see what this is and how it goes, because this just amuses the shit out of us that this exists. So we're going to do the last two things here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open a new window, and so like they do every year with Polkadot, is they do like an in-conference NFT. Last year, everyone's badge things, and they had QR codes on the badges physically, but it was more of like profile contact information from their own unique app. This is it's absolutely weird. So this is, let me try to find it. So it's on their Kusama network, and which is basically it's like Kusama was technically, we covered this on Polkadot itself, the test network for Polkadot, but it's gotten so robust that it's had its own life. So think of more Kusama of less of a test network and more of like, when you have like Chrome or Firefox, and then there's Firefox Beta, which I think maybe they like canned, but Firefox Beta and Canary Chrome. Like, that's what it is, where that even though this is like the testnet has gotten so big and comprehensive that it's basically now a sister network that's also the beta for Polkadot, and it has its own life of its own. It's pretty crazy. So this is the virtual NFT page, because we claimed it virtually. I think everyone had to do it this way. So let's see. So I do know from last time we should have an existing account. So we're going to click on that. And this brings up a separate window that's basically saying, hey, it's saying, do you want to allow access? And this is a direct link, so we do trust this. So I'm going to be like, yes. Plus our MetaMask is also kind of a throwaway account. So there's our account in there in the window through MetaMask. And then we connect. And, so this is neat. So we actually have to like validate we're where is this? The code. So they send us the link and then they send a password code. Again, it's like PGP stuff. So I'm just going to take the browser off temporarily, and you get to see a blank screen, a cool animated screen that most of you don't see. And I'm going to enter in that code because I don't know if they bleep it out. They don't, so I'm glad I did it. So we're going to hit claim. I mean, the code's not going to be usable anymore after this, but so it's like transferring it right now. We're going to give it like a minute, and then we're going to try to run this one bit of code thing and then end the episode. Yay! I'm going to turn it back on. There she is. Successfully claimed it. So let's see it on singular. It'll take a moment to load. Probably like way too much like New York Times, like JavaScript, iframe bullshit. And I've seen other people's. It's very like Cyberpunk 2077. So I actually, let's see. I think maybe the dark mode is preventing. There it goes. So yeah, we have our own crazy Guyver-esque Cyberpunk 2077 little NFT thing here. It's a little grainy. It might just be like my end, but yeah. So that's the one that we claimed. This is singular. We covered it in the Polkadot episode. It's grown exponentially since we covered it. Because I remember when it was just like a landing page. Now it's like a proper rival to like OpenSea, but on Polkadot. And unlike OpenSea, they make this really simple and not confusing to use. So like, because like I used it last year for the Polkadot Decoded. Worked really well. Nice to see them continuing that. So because we look at cryptocurrency and blockchain technology as technology, and we got to cover at least a minimum of 2 talks that focus on security here. And again, there's other tech talks and things on there, but I urge you to check them out, because normally if I wanted to stream for 5 hours, we would do so, but I don't, because I need to like go see the Betty Buys from the Pango Bye Bye Juice, yeah, real soon. But you know, we covered the right to privacy, but very confusing implementation system, and we also covered like a great primer for like how bug bounty programs and professional cybersecurity groups actually do assessment and the unique properties to like doing that for like a blockchain service. So remember that thing where we're like oddly implementation middleman? So this was the Logion dash test. We forked it, so you'll be able to follow it on the GitHub if you are on Twitch, and we're going to post the URL in for everyone else. So I just wrote, I would assume you can't claim it now if only accessing the event replay. No, because it's a one-time use code. They're at least smart enough for that, unlike certain other pump and dump terrible stores. So this is the log-on test that they were talking about, where it's privacy defaults. This is the purpose. Let me just make sure the text is there. Okay, it's mostly legible, so I'll continue on. The purpose of the project is easily deploy a complete logon infrastructure locally in order to enable function testing of platforms. This is basically a test network. We need Docker Compose, which I believe we have, and Bash, which should be default on it. So we're going to now go into terminal and attempt to do this, and it wouldn't be surprised me if it fails, because usually every time we attempt to demo gods, it fails. I think we've only had it successful right off the bat 3 times on doing 3 years of this show at this point. But let's see what we can do. So here we go, and let me actually do some resizing here and clear stuff out. So and then we're gonna like do some dumb scrolly stuff, because this is the system embed thing. In bed, like what you would say in a fortune cookie. Okay, so first thing we're gonna do is we're going to git clone this. I could be fancy and do SSH or the client itself, but I'm just going to do this the old-fashioned way: git clone, and then copy pasta. All right, so now we're cloning that in, and if we do a list, that should be in there, so we should be able to cd into logion test. And that should list all the stuff there. So the next step is that to run and execute locally. It's actually, this is why I wanted to do this at the end. It's run line. So if we have, if everything, because I said again, we should have Docker on this. If not, I'll try to do a quick install. And Bash is by default. We should just be able to run. So actually, I'm going to CD into it just to show everybody. Oh, what was that sound? Oh, I'm okay. That was just a weird notification on my end. Yeah, it was just an email on my end. Okay. So I'm just going to show everyone. So that's the folder with all the scripts, and there should be an up sh in there. So we're going to cd out. Cd. Okay, I'm just going to do this whole thing again because I'm stupid. So from here, we should just be able to just bash run this. So scripts. If not, we'll go directly to the directory and do this. There we go. And not found. Hold on. I'm going to cd into scripts. Let's just run up.sh. Huh. Alright. Screens. Okay, so let's just do this real quick. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So I'm just going to, because this should at least upgrade it. I'm too tired. I typed that in wrong. Alright, let me just look up something really quick. Alright, looking up something here in the notes that I wrote for myself yesterday, just in case this happened. Okay. Alright, let's try these. So I just want to make sure everything's up to date. Oh, I just realized something. Did I just do the thing? I did the thing, didn't I? Let's try this. If it doesn't work, then... oh, actually, hold on. Let me see. Yeah, this. Alright. Okay, so at least I wasn't that dumb. Alright, so let's try this real quick. Okay, so this should upgrade it. I forgot to do the -y, so we're probably going to have to answer these. Let's see, error. Failed to connect bus services down. Fascinating. All right, let's see if there's an alternative to this. All right, so let's see what changed here. So for those who have never seen us tempt the demo gods on this show, a big common thing on this goddamn insane show is that we often have this thing where the thing we're trying to run, once we have everything set up properly, works. Like immediately, first command instantly works, no errors. But then it's always something like npm or Docker or Rust or something or Go that it's like, oh, we haven't updated or there's this weird practicality in it. So it's like it's never like the thing we're trying to run. It's one of the dependencies that we're trying to do, which is like, welcome to Linux. All right, so I'm just going to do this all as one command here because this should work. Should be able to, oh, 1 second. Should be able to add this key here, and I don't want to screw up the key, so that's why I'm copy pasting it. Here we go. That should work. I'm going to give it like, okay. Server failed. All right, I'm going to try something else. I'm just going to CD app everything, and let's try this. We're just going to remove and redo. So, okay, so we're purging that. Oh, hold on. All right, I'm just going to do the dumb thing. All right, so we're doing a reinstall. Okay, so that's the thing. We have that error. Can't operate. Host is down. Why is the host down? Let's try to figure this out. Okay, let's solve this problem. Okay. So first of all, let's see. I'm going to add all this stuff. Let's try to resolve any conflicting packages. Yes. By the way, also for anyone tuning in now, why is there errors? One of the reasons why I love tempting the demo gods, we did this on all of our shows and our live streams, is simply because we love showing like the unglamorous side of hacking. So like this is like what you don't see in movies of just instant error messages and having an entire thing fail because you just did a typo on the keyboard because you haven't drank enough coffee, things like that. All right. I hope this works. Seems that Tezos is the thing that's throwing it off. That's fascinating. Yes. I'm going to go on for this for 2 more minutes and then I'm done. I don't care if we even progress at that point. I'm done because my eyeballs are start to fall out. All right, so let's just try everything normally here. So, okay, so we're going to set up the repository first. So first I'm going to, just to make sure everything's good and kosher. All right, now we're going to hopefully do these certificates for the repository correctly. So I'm doing sudo apt install ca certificates and then just double check here because I should have already had this default installed, but we're going to find out. Okay, so it is up to date. It's the same issues. Fascinating. All right, I think this is the modern key, so let's try this. So I'm going to install the key rings. Okay, and now let's add the actual, let's curl this key right here. Okay, and now let's chmod this into the proper area. Maybe this will actually solve all the problems. All right, let's do the whole certification thing now. See if that resolves anything. Interesting. All right, let me read this. System's not been booted. Oh, geez. Okay, that's why it's not working. All right. We're going to try something really quick, and then if it doesn't work, I'm done. So, Because the thing about these two subsystems is that I didn't configure them. Let's clear this out. So we're going to turn this guy off, and I believe I might still have this on here. Do I have it on here? I don't have it on here. All right, let's go back. It should be back on the screen again. Okay, good. Let's do that. Getting really hungry now. Probably mistyped that password. Yep. Here we go. Just doing my stuff. So I just want to see, because that's the actual problem. Okay. Okay. I have an idea here. Let's go back to purging. I can. I don't think I can. Hold on. Okay, we're going to purge these two things and then see if everything runs correctly. Okay, that got purged. Here's the other thing. It's from that fucking Tether episode haunting us. Okay, hang on. Okay. All right, so let's try this again. Let's see if anything improves. Because basically these two things are preventing a lot of like the installation stuff. So, oh, wait a minute, we might have a solution. Okay, so that seemed to have worked. So we're gonna just to clear up some systems. And then hopefully everything will be going right. All right, so let's try this again. Trying to make sure to remove anything that won't get in the way. Okay, so introduce sudo apt install ca certificates curl. Oh, damn it. Fucking typo. It's a dash, not an equal sign. Alright. See, now everything's going smoother. Fucking Tezos. Okay, so now we're gonna update the key rings. I'm gonna be really careful about that. So I just did that one. And now we're gonna curl the image here. Yeah, I thought we'd be done in 5 minutes, and then it's like, now I'm like super into this. But we are definitely going to get going soon, so we're going to overwrite it. And then we're going to add it to the ring. Okay. And now we're going to set up the repository. This is going to be fun. Okay. Let's do a resize here. I'm just going to do the whole thing at once. Okay. Just copy this. Just make sure this is not like a separate weird command. Is it installing or did it get stuck? I'm going to do something risky. Here we go. Bloop. I'm going to give this maximum 1 more minute. Alright, so we're going to do our normal. Just to cover our bases here. And then we're going to reinstall the latest one. And hopefully that should be good. Okay. Now we're going to attempt this. Hold on to your butts. Wait. Not available. No, okay. Just going to try this. I'm going to look at something here, so we're going to cd into okay, so that is there. Let me see if it properly. It's crazy because I had all this like properly set up before, but I guess it just like went behind the times. I just got another idea while I'm waiting for that. Alright, so let's see here, because I'm going to actually try to do the weird ass way to install from a deb. Okay. So we are at Jammy. And then, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find the directory. Pool, stable, the AMD, if I remember correctly. Okay. God, this is an even longer method. All right. Gonna try to do one last thing here. All right. We're gonna do one last dirty method here using curl. So there's a direct script that we could use. So let's just quickly do the exiting out. And then whether if this works or not, I'm done because I can barely keep my eyes open. Okay. Oh no, we're just trying to unfuck Docker. That's what's going on. Because again, it's like it's never usually the actual crypto stuff that crashes. It's all the dependencies and stuff around it that should be common and simple but aren't because, you know, computers. And it's funny because this is how I got started with like hacking is all the stuff I use is broken. So in order to use that, I have to fix it. All right, so we're going to curl that and then we're going to here we go. Hopefully this happens. What? Oh God. Ah! Okay, hold on. Let's see. All right, so now that we've learned that, I now have a bigger question. Huh. All right. Now I'm really curious about something. Let's see. I'm just going to purge everything just in case. Let's see. I just want to go back up here. All right. What really frustrating is that I know that Kali would have it, but I think I uninstalled that in order to use to like increase space. So unfortunately, the one simple line of code we can't run because insert endless joke about Docker. I am going to work on continuing to unfuck it off screen, and then when we get to the next episode, because this is common among crypto barons, sometimes we'll do a thing where we hit a roadblock, and I don't have enough time or mental capacity to try to get through it, and then the next episode, I always start off the episode of, hey, remember last episode where we couldn't? I fixed it. Here's how it got fixed. So this is going to be just another one of those. So unfortunately, more Polkadot coding in a future episode, not this one. So I'm going to wrap everything up now. Let's go back to face mode here. But yeah, thanks for everyone who stayed tuned, logged in the active chat that was going on. I very much appreciate the active chat. For those people in chat, this is your last moments for the live version of this. You could do this after the stream, but it's funnier when you do it on the stream. That if you want notifications from when the show Crypto Barons or my other show Master of Unlocking comes on, or if we do a live stream special, or when we live stream our meetings, you can go follow us on all of our stuff. We're broadcasting on Twitch, YouTube, Odyssey, and PeerTube. You can also view us through YouTube via Insidious through the Tor browser if you want to be anonymous. If you do follow us live while we're live streaming on Twitch, YouTube, and Odyssey, because I'm so used to saying the other lineup, that's why I have to pause. We do get notifications for those. But even if we're not live streaming, you can follow. You'll get by the way, if you're on YouTube, make sure you hit that bell and turn on all notifications, because YouTube is such a piece of shit that they never ever leave the all notifications on by default, even though it helps channels like mine who are non-monetizing and don't put commercials and are just trying to spread knowledge for the greater good. But yeah, free to follow us on there. Again, doing this conference, I wanted to so badly do this live, but timing didn't work, and then tried to do a post one yesterday and nothing worked. But at least despite the delay, everything worked today. So I want to thank everyone who came in and watched the stream. I cannot wait to nap after this. I'm also going to put in chat again that I also want to thank the awesome people at Hack Manhattan for allowing me, while they're working on stuff around here, to do and live stream this show. And this is their website at hackmanhattan.com. They have open nights Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you show up on Tuesday and Thursday, there's a decent chance that I might be there. I might be showing stuff. Look at the hint. I often show off locks there. So pay attention to that. I also believe, let me look at my calendar, because I saw this, because they do a bunch of classes and stuff there. And I believe, unless something's changed, next week on Wednesday, they have an intro to soldering class. So if you go to the website, you can go on there and you can look up what classes they have. Just note that they have open nights on Tuesdays and Thursdays starting at 7 p.m. It's awesome. Go check them out. And thanks for also the people at Polkadot. The people at Polkadot Decoded in New York were really awesome and welcoming. I'm going to upload pictures of that to our social media either later today or tomorrow. And they put on an excellent conference, as you saw the two clips that we looked at. If you want to check us out, once again, here is our Medium blog at defcon21.medium.com. We also are on everything. We're on the Bird site at defcon201.nj. We're on Instagram. We're on GitHub. We're on Co-Host. We're on and my phone just exploded with notifications. Hopefully they're good ones. But yeah, we're on a bunch of stuff. But we have a giant master link tree where you can go look at all of those. And even though I really want to use it more, if you want to chat with us and other members, we do have a Discord server, because of course everyone, their freaking mom has a Discord server, despite Discord server. At least it's not Slack. That's like our hard line right there. But that was it for our show. I don't know when the next ones are going to air. I'm still trying to figure all of that stuff out. There's also a cool special where I'm hoping to do a live stream special next week about this really cool thing we've been talking to a group of to do for about a month. So keep your ears out for all of our socials. And if you follow us on Twitch, YouTube, and Odyssey, you will get notifications for that special if it happens. And yeah, that's basically it for episode. If you're on Twitch, stay tuned. We're going to go raid another stream. Thank you so much. Like, I know it sounds like I'm like an AI generated thing that actually has fingers, all 10 of them instead of like 18 of them. But it's just, I've been really tired. It's been a really stressful 2 weeks. I ended up taking a huge chunk out of my thumb 2 weeks ago, so I was also healing from that. So I'm just really happy for all of you folks here lurking and learning and chatting with me. But that's it for our show, Crypto Barons. Stay tuned to more future stuff. Again, make sure to follow us on Twitch, YouTube, and Odyssey and PeerTube. That's it for our show. Again, if you're on Twitch, stay tuned. We're going to raid someone. Thank you for all watching. Hope you check us out, DCG 201, future stuff. And for DEF CON in August, again, stay tuned for all of July. We're going to have a ton of announcements for Hacker Summer Camp and the future stuff we're doing. So that's it for our show. Hack the Planet. Dirty Jersey represents. And remember, Docker is usually the bane of someone's existence. Like, I just find it hilarious. It's like, it's kind of like the webmaster joke of like, it's always DNS. For me, it's always Docker. I don't know why Docker, they were like, oh, it's a simple utility thing. And then they make it like, this Chinese is Greek to me. What the hell's going on? That's how it like interfaces with all operating systems. Like, I've seen like expert people try to like do basic shit with Docker and it drives them insane. And that's probably why they have like major workshops and conferences on it, because it's the most complicated, simple goddamn thing on the planet. You know, the hashtag see all of FOSS. Anyhow, peace. Say hi to who we rate on Twitch. Bye everyone. Enjoy the music.
looking back, you